let me ask you something real. How confident are you that the woman you're investing in today won't betray you tomorrow? Because the truth is this: love isn't enough. Attraction isn't enough. And hope? That definitely isn't enough. Without loyalty, everything falls apart. And when it does, the cost isn't just emotional, it's devastating. You lose years, you lose confidence, and worst of all, you lose the ability to trust again. But here's the good news. Loyalty isn't some hidden mystery. It's not luck, and it's not fate. Loyalty is written in her character, and if you know what to look for, you can spot it before you ever put years of your life on the line. There are 5 specific qualities that reveal everything you need to know. If a woman has them, you can finally breathe easy. You don't have to live in constant doubt. You don't have to play detective. You don't have to wonder if she's secretly entertaining attention from someone else. Because these 5 qualities guarantee she'll never cheat on you. Now, here's where most men go wrong. They think loyalty takes years to reveal itself. They assume you have to go through battles, hardships, and time together before you can be sure she's faithful. Wrong. The truth is, loyalty shows up instantly. It shows up in the way she handles herself, the way she treats people, and the way she treats you, especially when emotions run high. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 qualities one by one. And once you understand them, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Let's begin with the very first one. Quality number 1. Emotional maturity. If you want to know whether a woman is truly capable of staying loyal, the very first thing you need to look for is emotional maturity. Here's why. An immature woman doesn't need another man to betray you. All she needs is for her ego to feel hurt, and she'll find a way to destroy everything you've built together. That's the silent danger most men never see coming. Now, don't get me wrong. Emotional maturity doesn't mean she never gets upset. Every human being feels frustration, anger, and disappointment from time to time. The real test is how she handles those emotions. Does she confront problems directly, or does she shut down and run away? Does she communicate openly, or does she play manipulative games to make you guess what's wrong? Does she own up to mistakes, or does she shift the blame to everyone else? An emotionally immature woman is a ticking time bomb. She sulks, she withdraws, she punishes with silence, and sooner or later she'll look for validation outside the relationship just to soothe her fragile self-esteem. But a woman with emotional maturity? That's a completely different story. She faces the storm head-on. She knows that running away from conflict only makes it worse. Instead of expecting you to read her mind, she tells you what's bothering her. She doesn't sugarcoat it, but she doesn't weaponize it either. And when she makes a mistake, she owns it. No excuses, no deflection. She takes responsibility. That right there is the mark of a partner who values the relationship more than her pride. You'll notice something else too. She doesn't hold grudges. Once a conflict is resolved, it's done. She doesn't drag old arguments into new fights. She doesn't keep a scorecard of your mistakes just to pull them out later like weapons. Why? Because she's not playing for the cheap thrill of winning an argument. She's playing for the long game. That is what loyalty looks like at its core. Why this matters? Here's the brutal truth. An emotionally immature woman will constantly be tempted to look for relief outside the relationship. When she feels unappreciated, she'll flirt with someone else just to remind herself she's desirable. When she's angry with you, she'll vent to another man instead of working it out with you. And little by little, step by step, she walks down that slippery slope toward infidelity. It never starts with the act itself. It always starts with her inability to face discomfort and deal with it in a healthy way. On the other hand, an emotionally mature woman sees cheating for what it really is. Not just a betrayal of you, but a betrayal of the partnership she's invested in. She knows that stepping outside won't solve her problems. It'll only destroy the very thing she's building. And because she's invested, she protects it. How to spot this quality early? Now, the question is, how do you spot this quality before it's too late? Simple. Watch how she communicates when she's upset. If she clearly expresses her feelings instead of making you guess, that's a green flag. Notice how she reacts when she makes a mistake. Does she own it? Or does she immediately blame someone else? Pay attention to whether she forgives once an issue is resolved, or whether she keeps resurrecting old arguments like weapons. A woman who passes these tests is showing you she has the tools to stay committed for the long run. She doesn't need to seek validation outside. Her strength comes from within. But let's be brutally honest. If she fails these tests, you're not just looking at someone who might hurt your feelings. You're looking at someone who could waste years of your life. Because here's the thing. Emotional immaturity doesn't magically improve once you're committed. In fact, it usually gets worse under pressure. Don't ignore the signs. At the end of the day, loyalty isn't about promises. It's about how she handles the tough moments when emotions run high. If she has the maturity to face conflict, communicate openly, and protect the bond you share, then you're with someone who doesn't just talk about loyalty. She lives it. And that brings us to the second quality, one that might seem small at first, but in reality, it's one of the biggest make or break factors in a relationship. Quality number 2. Respect for boundaries. If you want peace of mind in your relationship, you need to know whether she respects boundaries. Not just yours, but her own as well. Because here's the truth most people ignore. Cheating almost never begins with the physical act itself. No, it starts with blurred lines, a harmless text, a friendly coffee, a casual conversation that feels innocent, until it isn't. Before you know it, loyalty has been compromised, not with one big decision, but with 100 small ones. A loyal woman understands something most people don't. Boundaries aren't restrictions, they're protections. They aren't about control, they're about security. They keep the relationship safe from threats on the outside and sabotage from the inside. What boundary respect looks like. A woman who respects boundaries is easy to spot, if you know what to look for. She respects your individuality, your time, your emotional security. She doesn't push you into things that make you uncomfortable, and she expects the same from you. But most importantly, she draws a clear line between her relationship and the outside world, and she refuses to cross it. That means she's not entertaining flirty messages from her coworker just for fun. She's not keeping in touch with an ex for closure. She's not letting random men linger in her DMs just to feed her ego. Why? Because she values the sacred space you've built together. And here's the key. When no one's watching, she still upholds that boundary. That's what real loyalty looks like. Transparency. The hidden sign. One of the biggest markers of boundary respect is transparency. A woman who respects boundaries doesn't make you play detective. She's not hiding her phone every time a message comes in. She's not vague about where she's going or who she's with. She's not making you guess. And let me be clear. Transparency doesn't mean she reports every single detail of her life to you. That's not a relationship. That's surveillance. Transparency simply means she's open enough that you never have to wonder if something shady is happening. For example, if she's going out with male colleagues, she makes sure you know who they are. She doesn't let you find out by accident. She actively makes sure you're comfortable with the situation. That's not weakness. That's respect. She doesn't just avoid crossing the line. She shows you where the line is, so you're never left in doubt. Shutting down temptation. Another huge sign. She shuts down inappropriate behavior immediately. If another man flirts with her, touches her in a way that's not okay, or makes a suggestive comment, she doesn't laugh it off. She doesn't downplay it. She doesn't leave the door open. She shuts it down right away. She makes it crystal clear. She's unavailable. A woman who values boundaries doesn't leave cracks for temptation. She locks the doors before anyone can even try to walk through. Why boundaries matter so much. Here's why this matters. Cheating is rarely about a single moment of weakness. Almost always it's the buildup of little boundary-crossing behaviors that stack over time. Think about it. That innocent coffee with an ex stirs up old emotions. That friendly message becomes emotional validation. That harmless flirting starts to feel exciting. And before you realize it, the line between friendship and infidelity disappears completely. But when a woman respects boundaries, you don't have to live in suspicion. You're not left second-guessing every notification on her phone. You're not scanning her Instagram for clues. You're not stressing every time she steps out of the house. Instead, you feel peace. Because you know she's protecting the relationship, not putting it at risk. How to spot boundary respect early. So how do you know if she has this quality before it's too late? Watch for 3 signs. 1. She doesn't play jealousy games. She's not trying to make you insecure by talking about other men who find her attractive. She doesn't flirt in front of you just to keep you on your toes. That's childish behavior, and it shows disrespect for the relationship. 2. She's upfront about her friendships. If she has close male friends, she introduces you. There's no secrecy, no hiding, no reason for you to wonder. 3. She takes action when someone crosses a line. She doesn't excuse it. She doesn't ignore it. She shuts it down. When you're with a woman like this, you feel safe. Not because you're controlling her, but because she's controlling herself. She knows what's at stake, and she actively protects it. The boundary red flag. Now, let's talk about the flip side. If she disrespects boundaries early on, she'll disrespect them later too. Don't fool yourself into thinking it's just harmless fun. Don't convince yourself she'll grow out of it. Boundaries are either respected or they're not. And if they're not, you're playing with fire. The core truth about boundaries. Here's the bottom line. Without trust, there is no real relationship. And without boundaries, there can be no trust. A woman who respects boundaries gives you that rare gift. Peace of mind. You don't have to chase her, monitor her, or second-guess her. You can finally relax and focus on building the relationship instead of protecting it from her. That's what makes boundary respect one of the strongest guarantees of loyalty. Now, we've talked about emotional maturity and respect for boundaries. These 2 qualities alone can save men from heartbreak. But there's another trap, a subtle one, that destroys loyalty more often than you think. It's the trap of insecurity. Because when a woman doesn't have this next quality, she becomes vulnerable to temptation in ways she can't even control. And that quality is self-confidence. Quality number 3, self-confidence. Here's the trap. Many men see a woman who doubts herself, who constantly needs reassurance, who feels insecure, and they think, she just needs love. If I give it to her, she'll never leave me. It feels noble. It feels romantic. But it's a lie. Because the harsh truth is this. A woman without confidence in herself will always be vulnerable to outside validation. And that hunger for validation is the open door to infidelity. What real confidence looks like. Let's clear this up right away. Self-confidence doesn't mean she's loud. It doesn't mean she posts motivational quotes online. It doesn't mean she pretends to be a boss babe in public. True confidence runs much deeper. It's about how she values herself when no one's watching. It's about how she treats her own time, her own body, and her own goals. A confident woman knows her worth. She doesn't need constant compliments from strangers to feel good about herself. She doesn't keep an ex on standby just in case. She doesn't fish for approval in her DMs. Her sense of value comes from within. And because of that, she's not swayed by the cheap thrill of male attention. The insecure trap. Now, let's look at the opposite. A woman who lacks self-confidence is always chasing something external. If she feels unnoticed, she'll post revealing photos online just to get a flood of likes. If she feels upset with you, she might flirt with another man just to remind herself she's still desirable. And if she's ever tempted, she's more likely to give in because she doesn't have the inner strength to say no. That's not loyalty. That's insecurity playing with fire. How to recognize the difference. So, how do you recognize whether she's confident or insecure? Start by watching how she carries herself. A confident woman is comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't constantly criticize herself, fishing for reassurance every 5 minutes. She accepts her flaws without spiraling into self-pity. She knows she's not perfect, and she doesn't need to be perfect to feel worthy. Next, look at how she reacts to your success. Does she celebrate with you, or does she feel threatened? A confident woman isn't competing against you. She doesn't see your wins as her losses. Instead, she's proud to stand beside you while you rise. Another test. Notice how often she says no. It might sound strange, but a confident woman isn't afraid to turn things down. She doesn't bend over backwards to please everyone because she doesn't need to. And here's why that matters. If another man makes advances, she can shut it down immediately. She doesn't flirt back just to be nice. She doesn't keep the door open just in case. She knows what she wants, and she knows what she doesn't. Confidence in the face of struggles. But here's the ultimate test. Watch how she responds when life doesn't go her way, because that's where true confidence, or the lack of it, shows the clearest. A woman with real confidence doesn't crumble when things get tough. She doesn't spiral into self-doubt or lash out at everyone around her. Instead, she handles challenges with determination and grace. She stays grounded. And here's the connection. If she can stay grounded in her own life, she can stay grounded in her relationship. Why this matters for loyalty. Infidelity often grows out of insecurity. The woman who constantly doubts her own value will chase the high of being desired by someone new. She'll confuse attention with affection, flattery with love, and you'll be left wondering what went wrong, when the truth is, she was never confident enough to choose loyalty in the first place. But when a woman has genuine self-confidence, she gives you freedom. You don't have to worry about what she's doing when you're not around, because she's not out there chasing validation. She's already secure in who she is. That security allows you to build a relationship on trust, not constant suspicion. The red flag of insecurity, never underestimate this one. If you find yourself with a woman who constantly needs other men's eyes on her just to feel alive, here's the hard truth. She doesn't belong to you, and she never will. Because no matter how much love you pour into her, it will never fill the void inside her. Only she can do that. And until she does, loyalty will always be fragile. The power of true confidence. On the other hand, a woman who is truly confident is one of the strongest shields against infidelity you'll ever find. She doesn't gamble away a good man for a cheap thrill. She doesn't risk stability for temporary validation. She doesn't need to prove her value by collecting attention, because she already knows her value. And that's the kind of woman who will stand by your side for the long run. Wrapping up this part. So now we've covered 3 of the 5 qualities. 1. Emotional maturity, the ability to handle conflict honestly and responsibly. 2. Respect for boundaries, the discipline to protect the relationship from temptation. 3. Self-confidence, the inner strength that makes outside validation unnecessary. Each of these qualities builds on the other. A mature woman respects boundaries. A confident woman doesn't chase attention. Together, they form a strong foundation for loyalty, but there's still more. Because even a mature, confident woman can stray if her core values don't match yours. And that's what we're going to cover in the next part. Quality number 4, aligned values. This one is crucial because attraction might pull you together, but values are what keep you together. Quality number 4, aligned values. Values are not preferences. They're not hobbies. They're not small likes and dislikes. Values are the foundation of how a person makes decisions. They shape how she sees the world, how she treats people, and how she defines right and wrong. And here's the harsh reality. If your values don't align, the relationship will eventually collapse, loyalty included. Attraction versus alignment. Most men confuse attraction with alignment. You're drawn to her beauty. You love how much fun you have together. You're hooked on the chemistry. But chemistry is short-term fuel. Alignment is the engine. Without aligned values, the spark eventually fades, and what's left is friction, conflict, and betrayal. For example, if you value commitment, but she values keeping options open, she will eventually betray you. If you value honesty, but she values convenience, lies will creep into the relationship. If you value family, but she values freedom above all, loyalty will eventually clash with her desire to escape. What aligned values look like? When values align, you don't have to force loyalty. It flows naturally. A woman who shares your values sees faithfulness the same way you do. She doesn't view it as a restriction. She views it as the foundation of something meaningful. If you both value integrity, she won't betray you behind your back. If you both value commitment, she'll protect the bond even when it's hard. If you both value respect, she won't cross lines that degrade the relationship. It's not about controlling her. It's about both of you living by the same compass. Misaligned values. Constant conflict. Now, here's where most men get stuck. They think they can inspire her into alignment. They think, if she loves me enough, she'll change. That's the biggest trap of all. Values are not negotiable. They're not something you can bribe or convince someone into. If she believes loyalty is optional, no amount of your effort will make her faithful. If she values attention over commitment, she'll always put herself in situations that test the relationship. And here's the brutal truth. Misaligned values don't just cause small disagreements. They cause deep fractures that only grow over time. How to test for aligned values. So how do you figure this out before it's too late? Start by paying attention to her actions, not just her words. If she says she values honesty, does she actually tell the truth in small situations? Or does she lie when it's convenient? If she says she values commitment, does she stick with her promises in everyday life? Or does she back out whenever things get tough? If she says she values respect, does she treat people with dignity, even when there's nothing to gain? Another powerful test. Look at how she lives when no one is watching. Does she keep her word to herself? Does she honor her own boundaries? Does she practice the values she claims to believe in? Because the way she lives her values privately is exactly how she'll treat your relationship when temptation comes. Why aligned values? Protect loyalty. Let's connect the dots. A woman's values determine her default response to temptation. If she values loyalty, she won't even consider cheating. It's against her core identity. If she values respect, she won't put herself in situations that dishonor the relationship. If she values integrity, she'll choose honesty even when it costs her. On the flip side, if her values are selfishness, validation, and living in the moment, then the moment temptation knocks, she'll open the door. Real-life contrast. Think about two women. One sees loyalty as sacred. To her, cheating is not an option. It's a betrayal of who she is. The other sees loyalty as conditional. To her, cheating is just a mistake, something everyone does when they're unhappy. Which one do you think is safer to invest your years, your heart, and your future in? Exactly. The red flag of misalignment. Here's the subtle danger. Misaligned values don't always show up as red flags immediately. At first, everything might feel smooth. She might even seem loyal because the relationship is new and exciting. But when life gets hard, when stress builds, when attraction fades, when temptation knocks, that's when her true values emerge. And if they don't align with yours, loyalty won't survive. The power of shared values. When you find a woman whose values match yours, something powerful happens. You no longer have to fight for loyalty. It becomes the natural byproduct of your shared vision. You don't live in constant suspicion because you know her compass points in the same direction as yours. You don't fear betrayal because you both see commitment as sacred. That's when trust becomes effortless. That's when love actually lasts. Wrapping up this part. So far, we've covered 4 of the 5 essential qualities. 1. Emotional maturity. She handles conflict with honesty and responsibility. 2. Respect for boundaries. She protects the sacred space of the relationship. 3. Self-confidence. She doesn't need external validation. 4. Aligned values. Her moral compass matches yours, making loyalty her natural choice. But we're not done yet. Because there's one final quality, a quality that ties everything together. Without it, even the best values and intentions can collapse. That final quality is consistency. And in the last part, we're going to break down why consistency is the ultimate proof of loyalty, and how you can spot it long before you make the mistake of giving years of your life to the wrong woman. Quality number 5. Consistency. Here's the brutal truth. It doesn't matter who she is once in a while. What matters is who she is all the time. Consistency is what separates someone who talks a good game from someone who lives it. Because anyone can act loyal for a month. Anyone can show maturity when it's easy. Anyone can respect boundaries when there's no real temptation. But consistency is what proves she's the real deal. Why consistency matters, think about it. A woman can tell you she's loyal, but if she only acts loyal when you're watching, what does that mean? She can say she respects boundaries, but if she only keeps them when she's in the mood, what good are they? She can claim she values honesty, but if she lies whenever it's convenient, what are those words worth? Consistency is the ultimate test. It's the pattern of behavior that tells you who she really is, far beyond her words. The danger of inconsistency. An inconsistent woman will leave you constantly guessing. One day she's loving and affectionate. The next she's cold and distant. One day she praises loyalty. The next she excuses betrayal in her friends' relationships. One day she says you're her everything. The next she's entertaining attention from strangers online. This back and forth drains you. It keeps you on edge, trying to figure out where you stand. And over time, it erodes trust until there's nothing left. Here's the reality. If her behavior is inconsistent now, it will only get worse when life gets harder. What true consistency looks like. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. Nobody is perfect, but it does mean reliability. It means her actions align with her words. Not sometimes, but most of the time. A consistent woman shows you who she is through patterns. If she values loyalty, you'll see it not just in how she treats you, but in how she treats her friends, her family, and even strangers. If she respects boundaries, she'll keep them not just with men she's attracted to, but across every area of her life. If she's confident, you'll notice she doesn't dip in and out of desperation. She stays grounded. Consistency creates stability, and stability is the soil where trust grows. How to spot consistency early. So, how do you test for this before you invest years of your life? The answer is simple. Time and observation. Watch how she behaves over weeks and months, not just in the honeymoon phase. Notice if her words line up with her actions. Does she follow through, or does she constantly break promises? Pay attention to how she treats people when it doesn't benefit her. That's where true character shows. A woman who is consistent doesn't need to prove it. You'll see it in her patterns again and again, until doubt fades. Why consistency protects loyalty. Here's the key connection. Cheating doesn't happen overnight. It happens through a series of small, inconsistent choices. She ignores a boundary once. She lies about a small detail once. She entertains attention just this one time. One inconsistency at a time, loyalty crumbles. But when a woman is consistent, she builds habits that protect the relationship automatically. Her loyalty isn't a one-time choice, it's a lifestyle. Red flags of inconsistency. Here are the warning signs you should never ignore. She treats loyalty as conditional, faithful when happy, careless when upset. She talks about values but doesn't live them. She changes her story depending on who she's talking to. She makes promises in the moment but rarely follows through. If you see these patterns early, pay attention. They won't magically disappear later. The power of consistency. A consistent woman gives you peace of mind. You don't have to guess where you stand. You don't have to live in suspicion. You don't have to waste energy wondering if her loyalty is situational. Because her actions prove it daily. That's the kind of woman who can handle the ups and downs of life without wavering. That's the kind of woman you can build a future with. Bringing it all together. So let's recap the 5 qualities that guarantee she'll never cheat. 1. Emotional maturity. She handles conflict with honesty and responsibility. 2. Respect for boundaries. She protects the sacred space of the relationship. 3. Self-confidence. She doesn't chase external validation. 4. Aligned values. Her moral compass matches yours. 5. Consistency. Her actions align with her words over time. Each one matters on its own, but together they create a shield around your relationship. With these 5 qualities, loyalty is not a question. It's a guarantee. Final truth. Most men lose years, money, and peace of mind because they chase attraction instead of loyalty. They invest in women who look the part but lack the qualities that truly matter. But not you. Now you know what to look for. Now you understand the code. So the next time you meet someone new, don't just ask yourself, am I attracted to her? Ask yourself, does she have the 5 qualities that guarantee loyalty? If the answer is yes, then you've found a woman worth investing in. If the answer is no, walk away. Before you waste the most valuable resource you'll ever have, your time. Because in the end, loyalty isn't about luck. It's about recognition. And now, you have the tools to recognize it.